Bieber from the Austrian Computer Society, Zoran Varga from the Croatian Trades, and Dr. Diana Andone from the Poly of Timisoara. The title in the program of this session is 8 to 20 million, because 8 million was the current figure when we planned the session. Recent updates of the statistics brought us closer beyond the 9 million mark of ICT professionals in Europe. There's still 20 million by the next 6.5 years. So it's going to be still a tough climb. And to discuss what needs to happen in order to reach that target, we would like to talk to our panelists here today. I would like to open by talking to Jakub Christoph, who is, as I said, representing CEPIS, the Council of European Informatics Societies, the Association of ICT Europe, who is the Secretary General for, as well as for the ITPE, which is the IT Professionalism Europe professional standard. Jakub.
Oh, yeah, it works now. Technology. If to talk about this particular subject that we summarized about saying that we have a serious problem in terms of numbers of ICT professionals in Europe, and we need to drastically improve it in a very short time. Started to think about what is the root of the problems, and apparently I was told by one of my very successful colleagues once that very successful people, I think, I thought that maybe that's why we are missing so many ICT professionals, because if we think about it from the business perspective or free market perspective of labor, that doesn't make any sense, because the demand for ICT professionals has been there for a number of years. The new issue is not a new problem in Europe or even further. It is something that's been happening for a number of years. So why is that? That's the demand is there, but hasn't reached the similar level in some. So we need to go and the complexities of ICT profession, and I do believe that there are multiple reasons for what is happening, but just to make them more general, is that one would be the issues connected with our European landscape and the way how we govern ourselves in Europe, how Europe being the junction of independent states is being governed. What Rohner said in the morning, that we are in Europe competing with each other as a member countries. We are trying to attract or even I might say poach some of the ICT professionals from country to country, from a sector to sectors, without increasing the general supply of ICT professionals. So from one point of view, it is very much a political and the macroeconomic reasons, competing taxations, competing systems. On the other hand, is I think that the even more troubling part is that we are in a little bit of fiscal. We, as Europe, ICT solutions, and therefore the brightest minds from outside of Europe or even within Europe are less play here in our continent, because they don't have the prospects of creating something meaningful in that work. I was very surprised to read that one of the surveys done recently among people found out that only 26% employed in the ICT sectors consider their work fulfilling and see the potential part of the progressions in their career. Loads of ICT professionals who are currently in the job are bored with what they are doing because they are not creating innovative solutions, and they are not having an impact that their skills should allow them, but they are just, let's say, the pieces in the large manufacturing line solutions that are brought from overseas rather than creating something new. So from that point of view, this situation of the current ICT sector is also one of the issues. There is also a question of being able to become ICT professionals, and there is a bit of a perception issue. I considered, let's say it as nerds, and not everyone who is a young about the career would like to be branded as a nerd in their education years, or also in their first few years on the so there is this issue as well, and also the competences required for the people to be branded as ICT professionals are perceived as challenging. That this becoming ICT professional is considered to be the easiest pathway to the career, and there might be a little bit of truth in that, but I think that it is more of the perception rather than the reality. So we have economical, political, cultural, and also educational reasons that we are lagging behind in terms of the supply tips. But and I think we will touch on it later. But it's not all doom. Opportunities for quick wins, or maybe some medium-term wins that will help us to get close to the target set by the Commission. One of the reasons that I'm cautiously optimistic is the changing nature of ICT profession. The ICT professionals from 20 years ago was most likely a person who was or a person who was involved in rather simple architectural IT architecture. Right now, the landscape of ICT jobs within the ICT professionalism expanded a lot, and it requires very different skills that were required 20 years ago, and probably in 10, 15 years will be yet again quite a lot of change to the ICT profession. We will no longer need people who will be writing the tons of codes, because most likely they would be replaced by the machines to some degree. However, to structure the work of the machine in terms of programming and coding, you need to have a different set of skills that could be covered by DevOps roles, or the people coordinating the development of ICT outputs with the operational needs and the business. There is quite a big opportunity for people who have a good understanding of how the ICT requirements work, or how the requirements are, but on the other hand, they need to maybe come from a more operational or business background. And they also will be branded as ICT professionals, or are branded at the moment as ICT professionals. More people with the creativity and it will also that's the universal user design, interface design. They are very much on the race, and that opens the doors to ICT professions for very different people from different backgrounds and the different core knowledge from their youth. And the other thing that's also I'm hoping we will touch on later, we've got several huge represented groups amongst ICT professionals. The gender profession is huge, and I think addressing it and trying to get it the ICT profession as a more balanced is also one of us potentially optimistic about the future and help us to bridge this gap that is very much, I would say, in the category of emergency now.
Next, we have Ronald Bieber, who is the Secretary General of the Austrian Computer Society. You have prepared a presentation, and it should be appearing on screen momentarily.
Perfect. I stand up. That's easier. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, if I understand you correctly, Jakub, we already have maybe reached our goal. If we just broaden the job profile or the professional, then we have already the 20. I will just show you some numbers, maybe for Austrian. The figures. First, it's from a Chamber of Commerce, and in Austria we are at 24,000. That doesn't sound too many, but it's I come to the next number with this ICT skilled labor shortage. That means, in other words, that almost 90% of all Austrian companies are having a shortage in that, or searching for people, and they don't find them. We mostly have, even when to look to abroad, or we just have years of leakage of missing people. And Europe-wide, it's even worse, when that is in the next years when 11 million IT skilled peoples will be missing. The possible reasons here, at least in Austria, what we have is regarding the universities. First, we are the difficulties, especially in the largest university of who is teaching ICT skilled peoples, that is the University of Technology in Vienna. We have a restriction to a certain amount of students. That's also due to leakage of money, of course, from the government, but also, of course, to leakage of professors, etc. That is but one thing is that is a really high dropout quote. That means that you see it here in the master, even more than half of the people don't get the master. Maybe we have already a job, are doing when working as ICT professional, but we are not ready for actually finishing the study. The same holds actually also for applied universities. That is more increasing now. The numbers from a governmental point of view, we are now have put again some 100 of new places for students opening, but it is also increased by 10% that people cannot finish the study due to maybe, hopefully, that some people are going to already to companies, but maybe I'll have another profession. And one thing what also you mentioned already, the gender is of course in pointing an issue also for us as Austrian Computer Society, that here, and we have also a project announced here with an professor. She's on an applied university aiming really getting more than 50% of her students are women, and that's there are some that we are now evaluating. We want to spread it over whole Austria. Yes, and of course, one thing also, and that is also for us in Austria important, is the IT education in Austria is really missing. I mean, we have 1 hour of informatics. This hour is in the 9th year of school. Now, since last year, we have from the 5th to the 8th school, 1 hour additional, so each year 1 hour, and it's called digital basic education. It was a long debate on, is it a correct one? Should it be called informatics? There is too little of computing inside. There's almost no programming inside. So we had both sides, and other people said, okay, there is just media competences inside, and so. And what we looked at actually, that, and I from the Austrian Computer Society, we are also staying behind the ICDL. No, this ICDL framework actually, and that fits actually, and that's was our advantage, that the digital basic education in Austria was very focused on the DIC-Comp, what you have already heard several times. So, and the ICDL is also fitting very well to the DIC-Comp. So what is currently is that the digital basic education, as I said, is mandatory now from the 5th to the 8th class, but schools have no teachers for doing that. They have invented, the government has invented, there was no education ready, and there were much too little informatics teachers, of course, there present. Second thing is that, as I said, the ICDL standard modules fits perfectly actually to the subject digital basic education. And that was our now thing that I said, okay, because my ICDL it's not just only what you maybe have learned, it's also going to information literacy, to a critical view on the things. Also has the creativity, the computational thinking, the inside, the robotic actually. And that's in Austria, at least, it's almost 800 schools doing ICDL, and we are now having, in the last year, we had gotten even more, 100 more because we as OCG also doing workshops in robotic, in computational thinking, etc., and making ICT more fun for the children. Okay, and it's a perfect framework for all other schools. And besides that, we also try at least that we see the Bieber of informatics. That's maybe also known. It's a competition for everybody actually, and we have almost 400 schools doing that Bieber of informatics. It's from between age 8 years and 18 years, and that is just on play gaming factor of learning computational thinking. And what we see here, that especially till the 14 years old, there is half women and men, and the girls normally are even better than here you see the celebrating the best from per each year, and you see a lot of girls present because we have beat normally in the same age the boy. We are proud that in Austria, 45,000 of them have participated. What we're still missing is to bring the women then, or girls from between 15 and 18 to ICT, and to get them also the study maybe informatics or something similar. Another thing what we have as OCG, we are doing projects, and one thing is that here the target group is not here the schools and are not the teachers and are not the pupils, but in this eMint project, the target group were the parents, because we found out that very often the missing link is the parents that you might don't understand what is behind Mint, Steam, what is behind the informatics. And so we tried we tried with an app, and we tried to introduce that. Okay, it's a kind of a we as an Austrian Computer Society, we are the biggest association as for ICT, I would say, in Austria, but it's still too little in order to get it running in over. Another one is very nice, is a cybersecurity. We here train the trainer, especially for migrant background, and doing here cyber security awareness training. And finally, what we are also trying to improve is to get the, I say, the crème à la crème. Yeah, so I mean the best of the best to get them very early already. So since we have in our backing, we have more than 1,000 schools behind due to the Bieber of informatics and ICTL. We try to talk with the teachers to get, if you have some people who are just bring them, and we have them separate courses, and to bring them to the Informatic Olympics. Yeah, that's very briefly something about Austria.
Thank you very much. Leading us also very neatly to our next speaker, because the programs you talked about were very much focused on primary and secondary education. I'd like to expand that to the higher education and turn to Dr. Diana Andone, who is the director for the e-learning center at the Polytechnic University of Timișoara, but also sits on the steering committee of the European University Association on digital transformation. Diana,
hello everybody. Yes. Hello everybody. Apologies first that I'm not there in person. I would have loved to come to Zagreb. I have very good memories of Zagreb, and I'm working with a lot of Zagreb universities in my work. But this is life. We just started the academic year yesterday, and it's very difficult in my position to leave the university at this moment. I was following the entire day online, and also my previous speakers, and I need to say, I will come with a tiny bit different perspective, because I will try to give you a bit of a boost, because I'm really trying to inspire you a tiny bit on how to look at the digital competencies for students and for the higher education. You have heard that I'm part of the European University Association Digital Transformation Steering Committee. I will strongly encourage you to have a look at the documents which we have produced in the last 2-3 years, which are really trying to encourage as much as possible the digital transformation in the university. And one, it's quite important because I think that everything needs to come from the strategic and organizational culture shift. Because if we don't really think about how you can develop an institutional SDGs, having taking into account all the aspects of it, it's going to be very difficult to really enhance the digital competencies of our students, and in fact to transform them in very digital savvy lifelong learning students, because this is what they are going to do. What I want to point to you here, that it's just that to foster the digital transformation, you really need to have this vision. And the vision usually you build with ambassadors and with early adopters. But to be able to take from the early adopters and the ambassadors to really a mainstream, which are really applying the digital strategy and enhancing, in fact, the competencies of your students and the entire cohort with whom you are working, you really need to be able to take it a bit further. And there you need to really develop a lot of work with the students directly, with stakeholders, and also with the institutional outside community. And this is where we need to look also at the tools, because a digital architecture and ecosystem, which will create a seamless ability to be able to move from digital to physical and to integrate digital in a normal way, not in a forced way, it's not easy to be achieved. And obviously, a lot has been done in the last 4 or 5 years in all the major universities across Europe, but I still believe that it's a lot of work to be done. This is why I will come with two very short stories, if you allow me. I'm coming from a technical university, which is very old, very traditional, bricks and mortar in-campus university, where we have tried since the last 15 years to enhance it quite a lot with a digital transformation. Back in 2010, we approved what we call the University Digital Education Strategy, where we've been looking first at digitalization, and just recently we adapted it with digital transformation. I just want to point out two ideas here, and one is really looking at students as co-creators and the wonderful things which really can happen to students if you really involve them with digital tools and with the support of digital tools to become co-creators of content and of ideas. Back even 25 years ago, we had this work in our university looking at disposable assignments. So really to try to move from assignments which we do with our students to assignments which we can renew, which we can reuse after that. Obviously, being a technical university, we look a lot at projects with companies, projects in the labs, and so on. And here you see some of the ideas which we are basically doing. This has been changed in the last 8-9 years with the input of open education. Why? Because now, instead of having only a simple project work done by a student, which is then used in the lab or by a company or something like that, we try to create them as open assignments and open educational resources so they can be changed and adapted by the next generations or by other generations or translated in other languages and reused, like you will see a bit later, in our European University Alliance. So this is something which I will strongly encourage everybody to try to look how you can involve the students to become co-creators of open education, digital content more or less, and where they can be really used. And we have published extensively. We have also guides in the university. We have guides now in our European University Alliance, where we are really trying to show to the educators, but also to the students, the whole process and how you really need to be able to do it so you can really take it from a simple idea to something which is certified sometimes, published as an open educational resources in open repositories, not necessarily only in the university, and then how you can really do it. We have done things quite a lot, and the students learn also a lot of digital competencies on the way because they do it with about 16 to 25 different digital tools for which they have tutorials, information, and guides to be able to do it. Plus, they really learn how to use the Creative Commons license, which nowadays, especially in engineering, is becoming quite a trend and quite important. Some of them even publish scholar articles, or they publish things, or they make articles in the news and so on. The other one is a challenge-based education idea, which we have been doing in our European University Alliance, UTRES, which is more or less focusing on regional education and entrepreneurship. And it's basically the majority of technical universities coming from across Europe, as you can see from north, south, east, and west. And here we've been looking at iLiving Labs, and iLiving Labs with a huge digital factor, because we wanted to create the entire idea of living labs, taking it from a project to challenge. So to really to be able to have full challenges and full ideas, which we've obviously been looking quite a lot of the UNESCO CDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, to be able to create these challenges. But the idea here is that they work as students from different universities with professors from different universities and external stakeholders. They all meet online. They all work using the digital tools, or sometimes, obviously, some lab tools. And over a period of 6 to 7 weeks, they are able to complete a lot of things. I just want to show you some numbers because we all love some numbers. So only last year, in the 2022-2023 academic year, we had 72 iLiving Labs with 2 challenge-based learning. More than 1,300 students coming from 8 different universities have been involved. 120 professors and industry things, and 810 resources were developed. Quite a lot of them reused after that, or we are planning to reuse them in the next challenges, or they be used in hackathons, or some of them even in some developments, because we have now 3 startups which were created based on the ideas coming from the iLiving Labs. Obviously, as you see, there are a lot of digital tools which the students use. Obviously, not only meeting online and so on, but they need to create ideas, mock-ups. They need to make videos, presentation. They need to make websites and a lot of things, everything to be done in 7 weeks. And this is why we strongly believe that with these 2 ideas, and these probably, hopefully, inspirational ideas to you, we are really able to create what we call the open, creative, and lifelong learning student, who is really motivated and able to learn through digital skills and through international collaboration for its entire life. That was basically what I wanted to say, and I really hope that we will be able to speak a bit more in the panel.
And the higher education facilities. We have heard from the ICT professionals themselves, and we have heard from organizations working on programs together with their national government. One perspective we're missing so far, and those who are in need of these ICT professionals. And we have here Zoran Varga, who is representing one of the largest SME associations in Croatia, the Chamber of Trades and Crafts. Over to you.
Okay, very much for inviting me here. When SME United delegated this task to us, as we are a member of SME United, one relations, thinking how to approach this subject, because on the case study of Croatia, because it is a very specific situation, but also it has some general ideas that could be put to the table, because one of the most important things, for example, in Croatia, and I think in Europe is also a rather similar situation, that in Croatia you have almost 99% of ICT companies and crafts are small and medium enterprises or even micro enterprises. And this is one important factor for this discussion, because when about goals that are set up, and as I was reading Digital Intensity Index report for Croatia, the situation is that one of the main obstacles for SMEs is that we have a skills mismatch from the labor market and education system. And what is more important, that we have and as you have heard on us in Croatia, there's a specific, let's say, demographic breakdown of the society, and SMEs do not have the human resources to implement innovations and even to approach to advanced technologies that could provide them with the innovation and even with another sets of skills that are needed for the future. And this is very important, because when I was thinking how we live in uncertain times, and we don't know what the future will bring, and 2030 is very close, and what we will do with all those numbers if we achieve them. What is the position of SMEs in all of this situation, especially when you consider the fact that, as I said, innovation is, as it was said, outside of the Europe. The main factors innovations are outside of the Europe. How to position SMEs in this landscape, in this complicated landscape, because there is no approach to this, and that is very important. And other important question for SMEs, as it was already said, what is ICT professional today? Because I would like to extend this definition, especially for SMEs, because they cannot be enclosed only within this specific ICT sector. The difference of also require more and more digital skills, and this really affects the small and medium enterprises in the fact that they, without collaboration, they are not possible to compete on the market and to compete on this ever-changing landscape. Also, the approach to knowledge, because the concept of knowledge throughout these digital technologies is changing very radically today. As I was thinking, when you consider the, for example, Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, which spawned the rise of the schooling system we are living now, and we are changing the paradigm of the learning, and we are changing the paradigm, what the knowledge means today. SMEs feel somewhat excluded from this position, but that's not the point, because what I would emphasize is we need more collaboration and integration with networks of small and medium enterprises, because small and medium enterprises cannot compete themselves on the market. They need some support and something like that. And this is very important on the labor market and the connection with the education system, because, for example, in Croatia, you have at the moment really important initiatives in the area of digitalization of educational system, there are certain strategic frameworks that affect especially the position in Croatia, and this is something you need to address as a question: how to approach, how to engage small and medium enterprises on the labor market, because they lack the, as I said, human resources experts one important also aspect maybe is this brain drain, but in Croatia it's very specific, because we are not losing only from educational institutions to the labor market, but our labor market is losing experts to more developed countries, and we are facing really demanding challenges how to approach and with which strategies, with which support approach all those issues. I would finish with that, because I think I opened some of really important questions. I think is applicable to more EU level, and for some countries, especially countries that are in position like Croatia in the European Union, this is a really important question. So this is a really brief introduction, but we can also discuss it more.
Thank you very much for this. Thank you to all our panelists for the they deserve a round of applause. You're very correct. You touched a lot of the key aspects. All of you did in your own way. And I would like to start out with one that came up with several times between you, even in a bit of a challenging way. And would like to give you the opportunity to react, Jakub, when we talk about what is an ICT professional, and with regards to how do we measure this target. The target itself as a number is not invented out of thin air. It's trying to respond to a predicted need that exists with the vacancies. But is that target and that need really something that can be filled by what we are currently measuring is an ICT professional, based on the job descriptions and qualifications that are used for counting them today? So the provocative question, really simple, is what is an ICT professional? What makes an ICT professional? And do we really need to look at that?
Yes, but what's you're alluding, and also what jokingly Ronald suggested sounds to me a little bit like that we should doctor the numbers, so expand the definition of ICT professional as much as we can just to hit the target. But this is kind of pointless, wouldn't it be? Because we would be feel happy about ourselves. The Europe Commission would tick off the box. Oh yes, we have a number of ICT professionals that we, but everything is hunky dory. We can move on to our next target, and by the 2050 we can ask for 50 million of ICT professionals. Every person who as an ICT professional. I'm far from what my original thought was. What I was trying to convey is that we are not gonna hit the target if we look at the traditional way of becoming ICT professional. I was really impressed what Diana said about the universities that are doing as much as they can, like the Polytechnic of Timisoara or associated universities. And this is definitely something incredibly valuable and should continue and should be expanded to more and more educational institutions. And I really have fingers crossed that Diana and her colleagues will convince as many academicians across the Europe to do that. But the reality is that there are more or less, each year, there are more or less 450,000 graduate of traditional ICT professions from universities. So if you very quickly calculate that we have 6 years, then we are looking at 2.7 million people in the best case scenario, even discarding the dropouts rates that Ronald mentioned. So we will fall really short of the number. What I was alluding by mentioning some of the new roles that could be considered as ICT professionals, that also means that there are the new ways of becoming ICT professionals, that it's not necessarily to follow the track, not disregarding, because it's probably still one of the best ways to be ICT professionals, but we need to put emphasis on upskilling and reskilling. We need to tap into this huge amount of people who are very familiar with the STEM subject, to the people who are working already in engineering, who had the educations in the scientific subject. These are potential target group that could reskill relatively well using different options, different qualifications. Using different ways of reskilling, attending various non-formal education providers. And by mentioning about those new types of jobs and the way that we can right now, using the for example the European competence framework, you can see how you can what sort of competences you need to achieve to become ICT professionals. It doesn't necessarily mean to graduate from ICT direct subject. So that's maybe just a clarification to what I said earlier.
Thank you. The other panelists are very welcome to respond and contribute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So again, you said they should open. I'm come back to the same now. No, but what I just want to add is I completely agree that we are not only universities, and because I was focusing on universities and applied universities. Absolutely correct. For example, I remember just now a project from a Chamber of Commerce in Austria, who is exactly doing that with SMEs and with bigger companies, making a cooperation, looking to young people, young people over 18 years, 15, 16, 17 year even. Second, possibility where we can make coming to an ICT professional, actually, not by studying. And that's absolutely, it was starting in one province in Austria, and it's now spread over. And that's but still, I think we should more also focus on the aspect that you already mentioned in the first introduction is, for example, the gender aspect. It's really what we are trying, and I think we are much too little women in getting to ICT, getting to have fun with that. It's not only programming, that is especially, I think, with AI, it will change. As the professors from university are telling it, that it's not anymore the normal in the future, not only anymore the normal attributes which you need as an ICT professional. It will change in the near future, and I think that it will certainly. It's much attractive also. Professional.
Zoran.
Thank you. Okay, when during this discussion, the straightforward answer for this from the perspective of employers would be ICT professional is that person which labor market says it needs at that moment. But that's not so simple issue at the when you think about it, because what labor market requires, and as it was said, what are we going to do with all these numbers if we reach 20 million? What are we going to do? Will labor market need those professionals, or are the things are going to change in future? So it's not so simple. This cooperation with the educational system will always need to emphasize, and education system will put inputs back, because cannot just require something and you need to print out the ICT professionals for the labor. You need to cooperate to see how to and one each other. So yeah, it's very, I think the definition would be really fluid, especially as we reach we don't know what the ICT professional will be in 5 years, maybe 10 years, and what will be required on the labor market. So I think what will happen, it remains to constantly be revalued in some sense.
Diana, if you also have something to contribute here, or we can also move on to the next question, up to you.
No, I definitely want to contribute if I can. So from my perspective, it's a bit different. I'm not that pessimistic, even if probably you will say why, because it's becoming very challenging nowadays for all the universities to attract and to maintain ICT professionals, because ICT has become a very sought after job. So I will try to put it the other way. The role of the universities, and just give me possibility to give you two answers, is clearly to connect to the academia and to connect more or less as much as possible to the stakeholders and to the region. This is why, for example, quite in the past, the universities have done, and it's becoming very on trend now for the universities to do. So really to connect to the community and to try to do as much as possible for the external stakeholders. For the technical universities, usually it's much more easier to do that because they work very closely with the industry. The regional industry cannot survive without having a close collaboration and cooperation with the university in terms of research, but basically also to attract students and to be able to adapt the curriculum to their own needs and to really to make that change with a vision for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So this is why I think it's not that pessimistic. In the regions which are well connected and where with the universities, the things are a bit much more easy. The problem is with the digital divide, with the regions which this doesn't exist, where it's not a big university, it's not a big academic center. there's the problem with the digital competencies and the digital skills, and how you can really improve, even for a small and medium enterprise company or anything, for somebody who is really looking for a job, their digital competencies. And there is exactly where the lifelong learning, the NGOs, and a lot of the associations' roles should be in the future. And quite a lot have taken that role. And we had Microsoft here as a sponsor, but even Microsoft, at least in Romania and Croatia and Hungary, in Poland, countries where I know very good examples, they have really taken into that role of trying to improve the digital competencies and the ICT skills of a lot of people, and reskilling and upskilling them. The other perspective which we really need to take into consideration is how to make that more borderless, more at the European level. And obviously, we are all looking at digital competencies at DCOMP.org and so on, and how to build this at organizational level. And EU has put a lot of funds and created, even with, for example, the European Digital Education Hub, a huge potential to really do that. But are we really taking it and using it? That's probably one of the biggest questions. Or do we really use the things which were funded for, 1, 2, 3 years by EU or by national funds or resilience funds nowadays, really take it over and really make it sustainable and really use that for the future and multiply it as much as possible? So I think these are the questions which, as leaders or digital ambassadors, we really need to be focusing and really try to put it. Obviously, we all have the same problem. Us in a technical university, myself in my department and so on, I have problems of retaining staff. I will be afraid what's happening in 10, 15 years when a lot of the youngsters don't want to join the universities because the salaries and the opportunities are much higher to build up their own startup company or to work for a big multinational company. So we have different faces of the same problems. And obviously, this is why I was trying more or less to give you those examples, because I really try to inspire all the time people and to be inspired by myself, also by others, because I think this is the only way how we can move forward and try to keep our motivation up.
Thanks very much. I would like to immediately follow up with you, and you were, I think, touching up on this already. But key aspects, I think, in getting a steady supply of new ICT professionals trained up is having the trainers and educators to do so. And I think that's one of the things that you also mentioned with the brain drain, which also affects this side of it. Do you have any questions, any ideas what needs to happen to build up the adequate number of trainers and educators so they in turn can train people, ICT professionals?
I think it's a big challenge for everybody, not only for the universities, but also sometimes probably even for large companies or large national agencies. We have this huge problem. And for example, even in EWA, in European University Association, we are going to release quite soon a chapter on skills and retainment and support. It's a big deal. And for us, how to retain the ICT, how to have the trainers which will train the next generation, because quite a lot of those which are now really in the academia or really trainers are not below the age of 35 or 40. And it's a huge gap, which in my lifetime, I've never seen it happening, at least not in Europe. And it's something which worries. How you can do it? Basically, to try to encourage a bit more and to make this profession as a trainer or as an educator more attractive for the new generation, and not necessarily only with good salary packages. Obviously, that's a big has a big importance for somebody which is at the start of their years or something like that. But to try to attract those which already have been working some years in the industry, which are probably having 10, 15 years of experience, to try to open the doors and to get them back into training and to education. This is something which Canada and America and even Japan has done it quite successfully in the last 20 years, trying to get those which are somehow senior in quite good positions in the universities and in training, because you have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge which they are ready to share for the young generation. And this might be a solution. but it's not as easy as it sounds. And unfortunately, the European universities have different regulation and much tougher regulations for the seniors from the industry to join in a good position, not at the beginning, not at the lower level of the ladder, of the academic ladder in the university. So there are possibilities, but not really easily applied.
Would any of participants here on the stage also contribute to the question of the role of educators and trainers? Do you have anything that you would like to add on this topic?
But I'm also not that pessimistic. Maybe it came such because we're the Austrian Computer Society. So and no, but we have seen that in the last years, for example, that we educate, especially in functional thinking computing, a lot of and there are more than hundreds. So it's for a small Austrian, it's at least a certain amount. And yeah, just to get the fascination with this subject, and that was really great to see, and I'm so pretty that it will work maybe.
Thank you very much. I would like to turn my next question to Zoran initially, and then the others can of course contribute. One, I'd like to stress with the goal, we're trying to answer a need, and ultimately the goal is that the vacancies and the needs are being met. In that sense, how we define an ICT professional currently is through these certifications and qualifications they have. And so yes, one side is the formal education through the higher education and previously to that, but we also need a lot of on-the-job training. We need a lot of people who learn what they're doing and need to be doing in SMEs while they're doing their main tasks at these businesses. What perspective can you share with us? How can SMEs be supported, and what can SMEs contribute to facilitate getting their needs met in terms of their ICT needs?
Okay. As I said in the introduction, SMEs definitely need a certain kind of support, and this is definitely one support from the institutional level, where you need to put a framework that can include SMEs as equal partners in this upskilling and reskilling of workforce, but also of educating trainers in the economy. So companies are really good generators of the moment. So the real life experiences, real workplace experiences are really important. But for SMEs, it's also important. On the one side, you will definitely need the financial support for SMEs in certain kinds of incentives, tax deductions or something like that, because they have small infrastructures. They don't have big departments that can manage all those kind of additional activities for them. But also, more importantly, and our surveys have shown, is this non-financial support. So you need some kind of networks, definitely, where you can collaborate, especially with universities, with educational institutions. This is also important, not just in a high school, in higher levels of education, but for example, in the vocational education levels, in a high school, it's very important for SMEs to have a contact with students, with schools, because this is where they see themselves as partners. So this is a kind of non-financial support, and what they also, let's say, it's a kind of a non-financial support to provide them with technologies that can be used to give them access to these technologies. Because, for example, some advanced technologies for SMEs are still very far from reach, and this is some kind of where institutional support can help them. But most importantly for SMEs is also local authority, because SMEs have a really important role, especially social role on local level and regional level, where you connect local people and provide them with this kind of digital skills and upskill, and you create some kind of community. But you need to have this open, like, collaborative space for that aspect.
On the question of reskilling, upskilling, and on-the-job training in ICT, any other contributions from the panel? Very well. We have lots of other questions that we could cover and have already touched on previously, and would like to go a bit deeper on that. When we look at the statistics for the number of ICT professionals that as they are being measured, it's from the 2021, which is the previous statistics we have, to the 2022 numbers, which are the most current ones we have. The gender gap for ICT professionals actually increased because of the 400 professionals that we got from year to the other year. Most of those were also male, and very small numbers was actually widened. Slightly, it widened. What are measures we can do? What can we do to close the gap further?
One possibility is to broaden the definition, as we said, of an ICT professional. I'm kidding. Okay, no, but it's crucial to start very early, to make this fun, and to make this creativity, what is the possibilities of it, to become an ICT professional. As you said, that it's because I don't want to become a nerd, but it's long. Just a small proportion are really nerds, I would say, but it's not anymore that. And that, therefore, I think it's really important to start in a very, really making that this computational thinking, robotics, etc., is not just programming, etc.
Obviously, we need to constantly improve the way that we teach technology at schools, in the way to making it attractive to who will then become women that could be a part of the solution. There is no doubt about it. But to a certain degree, we are succeeding. As you mentioned about the Bieber competition in Austria, I was involved in the Bieber. Yes, I would say if you look at the shakedown at this particular competition for children between in Ireland, it's between the age of 5 and 16. You didn't see the problem there. There are loads of girls who are really into the computational thinking, and Scratch competition that Irish Computer Society is organizing together. Because it is, you would see there's no problem there, because there are loads of girls that are really inspired, and not only inspired, they are really good. This is not a question. In some categories, well, they are very much the us. So I think that we are doing certain things right in at least in some terms, or to the first step. But I think we also need to look a little bit further. I think we need to look a little bit further in terms of what happens then. So what happens when those girls are a little bit older and they are thinking about their future? Would attract them in their future workplace to become to work as ICT professionals? Does the culture of the an average workplace in currently in terms of is the culture of a typical ICT department in let's say medium, maybe not small, but medium enterprise, is it welcoming? Is it welcoming the diversity? Why we need to, I think, to look at the general culture of ICT teams across the organizations. I think it goes beyond the diversity, but also an ethnic one, also people with because those are the potential groups that we can tap into, and I think there is a bit of an issue, the cultural issue within the workplaces, and we are trying as a CEPIS to this change happening by providing an expertise assessment of certain workplaces or ICT department in the workplaces by offering an initiative called Diverse IT Charter, where we make a check of if the culture in the ICT department in the workplace is welcoming diversity in terms of gender. And I think that this is an important bit, almost equally important to the challenges in the early and secondary education of girls in ICT subjects.
Diana or Zoran?
Yeah, I can say something. Thank you. I see something. It's a bit of delay when speaking with you, so that's why. So basically, I fully agree that it's if you look at the European Union in general and in total, there is a big gap between girls and women in ICT, and especially how we are. And I fully agree how we define ICT areas and so on. I'm a computer scientist. I'm an engineer, and sometimes even myself, I found difficult for a lot of new areas and domains where you require a lot of digital skills to find the place how to define them on the ICT skills. And I'm not speaking only about digital media or streaming videos and social media and so on, but a lot of them where you combine between communication and technology. So maybe that's one of the things which we need to look at, but it's a clear gap. For example, what I always encourage, and what, for example, my university, Polytechnic University of Timisoara, has taken about a year ago, is to sign the European Diversity Charter, which is a general one, because we are at this moment with 38% girls in as students in our university, and we want to reach 50. But even 38% for a technical university is high compared with the average on European Union universities. And I think the secret is to have models and mentors. We are a few women in my university, and look, even here, I'm the only woman who is speaking about ICT and computing and so on. I'm part of the IEEE Education and Computer Society, and even there, I'm usually alone, or maybe with one or two persons, and usually they come from America or Canada, not from Europe. So maybe we need to focus a bit more also on the ambassadors and the mentors. And in my work with Girls in Tech, the work which we've been doing here with a lot of schools and high schools, that's the reason. If I go and speak to them, my colleagues go and speak to them, encourage the girls from very early age to look at the ICT or engineering, technical or STEM subjects, and take have the courage of really going forward and studying, it's a big difference. And the other one is parents. We're seeing that a lot of the parents have not really pushed, forward their daughters to really go and study STEM or be more in the digital skills. Or even if they like the digital tools, they keep trying to see it as a side thing, not as their main job and main thing which they can do. So I think early age with mentorship, and also trying to, as much as possible, work with parents.
Zoran.
I agree with everyone. On the panel, you need to start at most early stage you can, because you develop this diversity culture from the early age on. And I agree, you need to have a really diversity aware culture within the companies. This is very demanding for small enterprises, especially because you need to find good practice examples to showcase this kind of diversity culture that could show the path for students that this is possible. So this is a well address, because small and medium enterprises really need to have this input from the educational system to see and to showcase that they are able to produce diversity culture within the ICT. So it is very important, and I agree definitely that you need to include parents. Parents are some kind of facilitators for young people to give a push to go to engage in some kind of this career. So definitely you need to include parents in this kind of forming of diversity culture, and what you will have, what kind of IT professionals you will have in future, and how this gender gap will be closed in the future.
Thanks very much. At this stage of the event, we are nearing our last 10 minutes. I would like to open the floor to the audience. If you would like to pose a question to our panelists, you're very welcome to. That includes the panelists themselves. You can also ask a question that you would like to ask your colleagues, if you can think of one. At this stage, I would like to thank the panelists for their contributions. If you still think of a question, otherwise, thank you very much for your contributions. And if there's no questions, my key takeaways from the session, I think, yes, there is a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the conversation. Mine is not really a question. It's like more a comment than a question, but maybe it will turn into a question. I'm very much interested in the gender gap situation in any aspect of job, like not only ICT, but obviously ICT is the main area where we lack women. I think that it's a problem, a cultural issue. We have girls who are told to use toys for girls since they are 3 months. Okay, so obviously they will face what you have said before, this is like ICT is for nerd, ICT and for boys, not just for girls, So that's a sort of cultural shame on those weirds. And so I think that you as ICT professionals, you could have a huge impact, but on families, starting from families. You have talked about parents, but starting from families, from even going door to door. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but even going doors to as girls. No, it's saying no. This is not a toy for girls. They have to play with mechanics. They have to play with Legos. They have to play with fake computers, obviously, because they think that the fact that they have, digital native doesn't mean anything. So it only means that they can use a tool, but they have to understand it. They have to understand what they can do. Okay, I'm finishing, I promise. And sorry, it's because the main part of my job. So I really want that. The last thing that you have said, yes, some jobs and some areas, some offices, some desks could be very toxic for women, but as soon it will change, as soon as we will have, more in there, those mentality would change. So we have to stop thinking about the problems that women should face in the workplace and put those women there. That will change the workplace, So that's basically it.
May I say something? Two things. I think it was very interesting what you said about the potential of the whole culture changing if in the wider community we talk about. I think that we need to change a little bit, just maybe to speed up the process. We need to change from saying for sending the message to the organization that we should have diversity because it's a right thing to do, which of course it is, but they don't care. Those who care already addressed it to some degree. We need to talk in the way that it pays off. The work environment, that it is a beneficial in very calculated way, that it is the better result, that it is actually make an economic and business sense to change. But coming back, and I'm going to say something personal about the role, and also about something that many of us, and certainly the protagonist in this very short story is, and this protagonist was me, that we have something like a subconscious bias, even if we don't realize about certain things. I remember when I was once, I don't know, killing time, but scrolling my Facebook feed, so the adverts for a coding camp or coding is for children. And I remember it very clearly that my first was, oh, it could be very interesting for my son Leon. And then it took me, I don't know, maybe 5-6 seconds to think, but I also have a daughter. And this 5-6 seconds was the proof that I might have somewhere also this subconscious bias. And I think that we all at some level and all work on it, especially if you are, as me, parents.
Thank you very much for words. Last question from the audience. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to jump back on what you said about changing the culture within the companies, because indeed many women do join and then drop out very quickly. They're paid less because it's very inflexible in terms of hours and having a family life on the side. So I was wondering, what's your impression of how the companies are dealing with this? Do you feel like there is a authentic willingness to change this, to make this a more welcoming environment, or at the end that, it's more, that it's more for the show, that they say that they're trying to hire women, but that there's not actual plans to change and make it.
Should come to the Austrian Computer Society. No, but again, I've to change. As you said, the companies have not realized it. We will have to realize it in the near future, that their success is depending also on the diversity of their. That is a better result coming out if there is a diverse team structure. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do believe that, and especially, of course, the big companies, they already know that's off to have diverse teams, and the culture there is changing. But I think that there is a huge role, and especially in Zoltan's role, to deliver this message about that it simply pays off. It makes economic diverse ICT teams and welcoming culture for diversity, then it is just the right thing to do, and we should all do it because is just saying that we should have diversity. It's not about the political correctness. It is very much about the results. It's about the money, and this message, I think, would need to reach more and more employers, especially in the SME sector, and that's going definitely help. So if you think about any ideas how we can promote through initiatives, through projects, this awareness, that's something that maybe you can take out from this. What do you come up with?
If I can add something here. Just briefly, I fully agree with the thing that if you need to prove it, that it needs to pay off, that it really needs to be, how to say, economically viable. And there are several studies on this. Unfortunately, we don't know how to put them in a, how to say, more favorite light, so everybody can read them and have access to them. There are published papers, research. PwC has done a lot of research on big companies, but also in European, France and Germany, small and medium enterprises, where there is a woman in a team, or even if there are 2 or 3 women in a team, if you reach between 30 to 50% of the team members to be women, it's clearly that the delivery is more in time, that better communication is happening, that the environment is more friendly, and so on. So, and all of that translates into saving costs quite easily. So if that can be put in a more friendly manner outside of the companies, I think that will change a lot of the cultures. But basically, that's the problem, because like we are trying, we've been doing for the last probably 5-10 years, that when we advertise for hackathons, or when we advertise for any ICT training schedules or training camps or anything, to have a woman or a girl there smiling and so on, because we usually have quite a lot of boys in that environment, and that's obviously not appealing for the girls. And that's basically because everything in this image obsessed world is related to image and perception, and it's the change of perception obviously leads to money first and cost savings for the companies, and for the normal people to whom I relate to. Do I relate with those people or not?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are out of time here. There's more to be said on this topic, certainly, but even more so, there's much, much, much more to be done. My key takeaways here is what we need to do in this aspect is to destigmatize and demystify the profession. We need to look further of who can become an ICT professional and approach the topic of inclusivity and access to education and training for those who are currently not. And then we have and also get what is the ICT profession. Has a representative from CEPIS has recently said in another event that 1 of 5 jobs that will people that are now the youngest generation will have in 20 or 25 years don't even know what they are. We don't know how they will be called, and that's probably even more so true in this. That's going to be something we need to look at by the term. I thank you very much for your attention. I would like you to give a very warm applause for our speakers, Bjarne Andone. So, also, thank you for your comments to Zoran and Mariana, and I release you to the coffee break, where you can talk further on the topic and get in touch with these excellent people and amongst each other. And we will be back here, I think, in this room at 5 for the last session. which is the lightning talks, where you can hear about excellent initiatives and topics that are going in the direction that we talked about here today, among many others in terms of digital competence development. Thank you very much for your attention.